Hello viewers, and a very warm welcome to another episode. Just a quick episode. I bought this video camera the other day on eBay for just 99p. It was actually 99p starting bid, buy it now, about £6 postage. And I thought, I can't resist it for that. If anything, I'm going to get the viewfinder out of it if it's working, because it's got a little black and white CRT in there, which will be handy for a little project. This is actually a clone of a Sony. This one's a Fine Movie 8 by YASHICA, and it's identical to the Sony one. As you can see, it's pretty much exactly the same. Even the colour's the same. Same zoom, same f-stops even. Absolutely identical. This one's missing the viewfinder because I used it the other day in a little project where I turned it into a little games console screen. So I took that off of there because the camera itself's not working. As you can see, the door's all buckled. It's exactly the same camera looking at it. So I thought we'd plug it in, see if it does anything. I'm not expecting it to. Hopefully the viewfinder will work at least. Oh, the counter's lighting up. Turn it to the camera. Nothing in the viewfinder whatsoever. In fact, it's not even coming to life, just the counter's flashing. Nothing. Let's see if the eject will work. You can hear it struggling. Sometimes these things haven't been turned on for absolutely years. And the capacitors all start going a bit funny and start leaking. The viewfinder has got a little bit of something going on in there now. It's very faint. It's not ejecting. It's now putting the eject logo symbol up on the counter there. Sometimes just unplugging it and plugging it back in a couple of times can get things going again. There we go, it flashed over then. It's starting to do a bit more already. And these do have belts in, and it's quite possible that the belts have perished, depending on how it's been stored. It's just lighting up down on one side. It probably is bad capacitors, like I say. They're all surface mount, and they'll all be leaking by now. It's very rare you'll find one of the camcorders from that time period, the late 80s, early 90s, that's still working. Funny thing is, the older ones seem to still work. I've got a lot of VHS-C machines from 1984-85 that still work. There is actually a tape in it. Someone's left in there. It's like a 90-minute tape. It's not doing anything at all. It's trying to move, but as I say, I think one of the belts is probably gone. The camera's not actually doing anything either. Not even the autofocus. Oh. No zoom either, so it's probably a problem with the DC to DC board. I suppose the next thing to do then is to take it apart and have a look inside and see if we can see any obvious things. We'll do that next. Just before I take it apart, I thought I'll just plug it into a video monitor, see if I get a picture out of it. But there's nothing. I'm getting wavy lines now, I wasn't getting anything before. sometimes these things will come back to life after a while being plugged in. They've been dormant for so many years, the capacitors have all kind of died and, like I say, just started leaking, and sometimes having a bit of power through them can make things come to life for a little bit. Okay, let's take it to bits. There's the tape. I remember working in the Sony Centre back in the early 2000s. People were bringing in the Sony camcorders from the early 90s, wanting to play tapes back and then finding that they weren't working. And to have them repaired back then was an awful lot of money, and it probably still is now. And you just knew that what the problem was going to be. It was going to be capacitor leakage. Trying to get it across to people that how much it's going to cost, and even if it got repaired, it may not last very long, because once the fluids start leaking out the capacitors, they end up corroding the boards. And if you don't get it all off, you can carry on corroding the boards. So it might work initially and then stop working again. More often than not, that would happen. People think that just because they're spending 150 quid on a repair, that it should work for another 10 years. But it's not always the case. You might just get it to limp along for a little bit, just to watch some tapes back, but that's usually it. Obviously now these are getting on even older now, 20s and 30s. Even less chance of sorting them out. So for the date codes, there we go. So this one was made in '88. So if you can see that on camera. Just there, you got your little date codes. It's got 88, 89, 90. Don't know if that's showing up on camera, but that tells you when it was made, basically. There's a little block diagram there as well, where everything is. That's handy. I think I've seen that before, actually, now I think about it. It's even got the Sony model part numbers on here, I recognise. It really is just a Sony camcorder with somebody else's name on it. Let's have a smell. Sometimes if you get that fishy smell, you know it's the capacitors that have leaked, because they just have that odour about them. See, the tape's all still laced up, but that's been in there 10 or 15 years. Let's plug it in again. It's not delacing, is it? So we've got the viewfinder. Connecting cable just there. No, that's the cable for the start-stop button. Viewfinder one's further down. There we go. converting cable off. I don't know why I'm being so careful with it, because I'm probably not going to put this back together. Probably just end up cannibalising it for project parts. There we go. The video recorder module on that end, the camera at the front. Some parts of the belt here if the autofocus has perished. I wonder why I could hear the motor going and it not moving. Put the camera mode. Right, there's the capacitor side. Surprisingly, they all look alright. It's probably the DC board then, which I think is usually on the back. Probably this one here. There's all your little surface mount capacitors there. They all actually look okay. I can't see any green around them. Usually you see green around them, or they go with like a tarnished grey colour, but these all look alright. The white balance sensor there. Yeah, DC to DC converter. Looking at the block diagram on the side there was right. It's that one there. That would be the place to look, but it looks like it's all been soldered together, annoyingly. I don't know why they did that. Be interesting to have a look in there. See if we can just pry one side open. Not a very professional way of doing it, but like I said, I'm probably not going to end up doing anything with this to repair it. I'll just end up cannibalising it for bits. Be careful with these, they're quite razor sharp. Put the surface mount on one side. There we go. If I can get that off, I can have a look inside. Bits of that belt. They all perish and go all sticky and horrible. Well, this is my new silicone work mat. We'll pop that cover off and have a look underneath, just out of interest. Well, there's the DC to DC converter board. I've removed all the cans from it. So I don't think I'll be putting it back together. I guess that shielding's all there probably for emissions. RF emissions. Not see anything physically wrong with it. It looks fine. There's nothing there leaking. I expected to see a load of horrible leaking capacitors, but most of these are through the hole. There are some surface mount ones in there. And they look like surface mount ones. I'll plug it all back together now and see if it's anything's changed. Right, let's put power to it. You can see the cogs in there. There's a worm wheel set up. Motor's going out across that way. And the worm wheel. I'm just looking at the control board there for the functions, play, pause and fast forward, etc. There's a mount there for record and a slow motion one as well, which will obviously be for a different model. It says in there somewhere, I've just seen that the NTSC models for record only. Just taking that sideboard off there over the front of the camera and can confirm that the belt has perished for the autofocus. There's the wheel there, that's the motor. You can just see the brass bush there, or pulley for the motor, and it's nothing attached to it. That's perished basically, that has. Just need to figure out now how to get that tape out. And those heads look in good condition. Hardly anywhere on them at all, there's no dirt on them. Right, let's get the other side off. There's an annoying bit of screws. And that belt's on. So the two just actually slide off. I was looking for a mounted position with the screws. There we go, that's the camera module. It's self-contained in there. That's your video recorder. It's a little 8mm deck, isn't it really? It's all it is on its own. Not spotted any leaking capacitors yet. Sometimes I suppose you can't tell because it can be right underneath. You don't see it until you remove them. Something there looks a bit suspect. No, it's just the glue from that top of that transistor. Okay, just out of curiosity, I thought I'll just replace those Sanyo caps that apparently go bad. I'm watching some YouTube videos, and apparently they're quite suspect for going bad. They all look okay, I'm not seeing anything leaking out of them. These are on the DC to DC board. I'll just quickly put some in. One I did have to put in an equivalent. I wanted a 6.8 UF and I put in a 4.7, it's the closest I could get. So I'm going to plug it in now and see what happens. Maybe we'll get some magic smoke and it'll be worthwhile just to see that. Well, you never know, it might actually, the camera part might work. Even if we can just get the camera side working, it'll be useful for something. Use it in another project. So, let's get ready to power it up. See what happens. Power that. Nothing. It's not even lighting the display up anymore. Okay, I missed off the cable, so let's try that again. And still nothing. That wire there goes to the controls, but I'm not even getting this to light up. I guess it doesn't like what I've done to that DC board. Well, replacing those caps had little, or actually no effect whatsoever. In fact, it did even less, so I think I must have broke something along the way. So now this is just going to be a complete teardown video. So I'll just take the rest of it to pieces now and we'll see just how much is inside one of these things. I always find the camera section the most interesting. There's always one screw that's hard to get out. So much shielding. That's soldered on there. So we're getting down to the CCD board now. That's the side of it there. I won't be throwing all of this away, I should be saving most of it because I shall use it in other projects. Make sure the wiring looms. Right, should come off now. Oh, I can see the two screws there that I missed before. I would have taken that off. Right, should release the CCD and there we go. And this one's actually a bit fogged up. Surprise, surprise. That's the motor wire. Lots of motors in these actually. There's at least three, well, there's three there at the front. Oh, they come in handy for little projects. In fact, I shall leave all the gearboxes together because if I ever make anything like a, I don't know, like a little cyborg robot or something, you can have it so that the eye will move automatically. But that belt will need replacing, I just realised actually. Don't know if it's showing up on camera, but you can see it's missing. So there's the CCD, and it's fogged up. Well, the infrared filter's fogged up. That is a common problem with Sony cameras actually. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll see I had a broadcast camera with the same problem. I managed to separate the elements and clean them. In fact, we'll take this cover off in a second while I look inside. I'll take a picture actually to add separately before I take it apart. Right, let's get the CCD open. So in fact, let's take some of these wires off if they'll unplug, because these ones are soldered plugs. Oh, these screws are tight. Heck, managed to get another screwdriver. Freed that one up. Made a right clunk when I did it. Oh, there we go. Finally. Let's get this IR filter off. I've got a Sony Trinicon with a dodgy IR filter, and I've put it back together without the filter in. Of course the pictures are clear, but it's changed all the focal lengths for some reason. It's mounted on a piece of rubber. And there's the CCD. Wow. And that's only about 1/3 of a megapixel. Just over 300,000 pixels if I remember rightly. And when you look at what we've got today in 2022, go into the hundreds, don't they, megapixels? Yeah, this IR filter, infrared filter, I may have to do a close-up on my phone camera. There's several segments, well 3 segments, if you can see that, and they're bonded together, some kind of glue, and it breaks down over time basically. I've got a Sony CCD V8 AF that's like that as well. You can take them apart and clean them, but it's a very fiddly business. But I did a video on that separately on a broadcast camera, DXC3000, that had the same problem, and it rectified it. I shall add that to my collection of CCDs, which I'm starting to build up, all the different sizes. One thing buying these old cameras, you end up getting quite a lot of interesting parts. I'm not going to take any more of that apart, because as I say, I'll probably use that in something else as it is. Can put some power to those. Can make it move in and out. There's loads of mould in there. This has obviously been kept in damp conditions. You can see it in the lens on this side as well. Let's see if we can get this cover off and see if we can see the fine legs that attach the CCD to the board. I think I'm going to better get that off, I don't want to break it. I think it's all one unit. It is. I was hoping to be able to show you the legs of the edge of the CCD, because it's actually gold. I can't remember how much gold content is there, but they use gold to attach the legs of the imaging device there to its surroundings. It's soldered in there. Well, there you have it. That's the entire contents of that video camera from around 1989, or camcorder should I say. I'm amazed at just how much is inside of one of these things. It's been quite a long time since I've taken one apart, so I guess I've kind of forgotten. So many circuit boards. It's no wonder these things were so expensive to get repaired back in the day, because there's just so much to take apart. Quite a few useful things in here that I will use in future projects and other repairs. Loads of wiring that I can use, which is always handy. Some micro switches, because they do sometimes go. I shall keep some of the boards with the capacitors on, because some of them are still useful. Any balls there that I won't keep, I shall recycle responsibly in the wee bin, which is something we have in the UK here, electronics recycling. It's called the wee bin. I've got a good black and white viewfinder there which works. That's one of the cooler round ones as well. I always like using those in projects. Not bothered taking the tape drive apart because that will help protect some of the parts in them which I may use in future repairs. Things like the heads there, capstan motor, take up arms there, the loading mechanism. Sometimes they can drop off. I've had a camera before where one was missing, so they'll be handy to keep along with the belt. Got a couple of RCA cables there which I shall use. Another CCD there for the collection. Even if I did get this camera going, which I didn't think I would have done, that was fogged up in the end anyway, so it wasn't really doing anything at all in the end. After replacing those caps on the DC board, it was doing even less, so I must have disturbed something else. But at least some of this will be used in other projects, so it's not all going to go to waste. I shall recycle the hard plastic shell as well after I've removed the wiring and the microphone. Well, that's the end of yet another video. I hope you enjoyed watching that with me. I guess until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you.